Lesson number 1, Introducing NetBackup. Here you can see that this is the first lesson of 9 lessons. So here we'll take a look at some lessons and topics of the objectives. Introduction to NetBackup data protection. And here we'll take some considerations for your data protection. RPO and RTO and how NetBackup provides the ability to utilize that to its best degree. In the NetBackup environment, we'll identify all the different components that run within NetBackup. We'll also take a look at some of the concepts through a bunch of different terminology that are used and how NetBackup actually does backups and restores your data. We'll take a look at NetBackup options that are available for purchase as well as the different types of agents that NetBackup offers. Here's Introduction to the Data Protection. So as an IT administrator, you've got lots of different things to think about. You've got the ability to figure out how you can do backup of all your data with minimal application and user disruption. You also have to figure out minimal downtime and data loss for when you have to do restores of any type of outages that you might encounter. You'll need to manage your backups and restores easily and centrally. And NetBackup has the ability to hit all these areas. As far as data protection is concerned, you can see for the recovery point objective, we've got the ability to do backups to tape, snapshot technologies, asynchronous replication, and synchronous replication being the least amount of time frame taken to do a backup of your environment. As far as recovery time is concerned, the RTO side, we offer the option of doing clustering. You've got a minimal of a few seconds to minutes to be able to fail over from a failed node to an active node. You've got bare metal restore, which is an option that's offered through NetBackup. You also have disk restores to be able to restore any backup that was done through a disk storage unit, as well as a tape restore, which would probably take the longest amount of time. One of the areas that you should take a look at when trying to plan out your data protection is to figure out exactly what type of backup methods you'll be using. Another area is the number and type of users and the applications that you'll actually need to back up. Do you want to actually do data archiving? How long do you plan on actually hanging on to that data? How long do you need to be able to restore that data? The different types of recovery methods that are there. That's the best tips that we can offer. During your Symantec data protection, there are multiple different ways also to hit the RPO and the RTO side. You can have NetBackup tape, which could potentially take up to a day to restore from, depending on how long the backup job was. We have NetBackup and disk storage through the Storage Foundation snapshots that can significantly reduce the time frame for that. There's also NetBackup real-time. There's Veritas Volume Replicator. On the RTO side, you can do Replication Director, which happens to be a brand new feature in NetBackup 7.5. We've got Veritas Cluster Server, Bare Metal Restore, which is a free product with NetBackup. We've got NetBackup on disk, as well as NetBackup Pure Disk, your deduplication option, and as well as NetBackup tape. The NetBackup environment. Let's take a look at some of our terms and the components that we have here. On NetBackup component definitions, at the top of the tier, we've listed the master server. You can see that basically controls just about every kind of environment that you would have. The EMM server, commonly referred to also as the Enterprise Media Manager side. This one's what's going to manage and allocate your required resources. We have the media server. You can have one or more media servers in your environment. They can also be different types of operating systems as well. This is the one that's actually going to move the data from over on the client side over to some type of storage. So these are our basic tiers. You've got a master server, and the EMM is really more of a component. It's a part of the master server. You've got a media server and then clients. One of the other pieces in the puzzle is the NetBackup Ops Center. Ops Center is a separately installed application. It is a web-based application. Your Ops Center is the one that will allow you to monitor, manage, and report on your NetBackup environment. We will take a look at this in further detail in a later lesson. This is a great pictorial view of how NetBackup can get installed. There's two different functions for being able to install this. We have something that's called the NetBackup server side. So on NetBackup server, the main component of this is that you actually have one box, which is your master, your EMM, the Enterprise Media Manager, and the media server. You can have unlimited number of clients, and you can also back up to disk or to tape. On the other side, the NetBackup Enterprise server, that allows for one master / EMM server, and you can have a multitude of different media servers. And then of course, unlimited number of clients. There isn't any limit to the number of media servers and clients. When it talks about a NetBackup hierarchy, there's only one and only master server EMM component, regardless of the environment. NetBackup domains. As a company purchasing this, you can have more than one NetBackup domain. At times, you may be backing up multiple different locations, and it might be more convenient to actually deploy more than one NetBackup domain. So much like the slide talks about, we've got Site A domain and Site B domain. So in Site A, we've got one master server with a couple of different media servers and several clients. On Site B domain, again, still your company, you'll have one master server, a couple of different media server and clients. These are two separate entities. They do not communicate with one another. As you can see in the middle of the screen, we have Ops Center. Ops Center is the one that will actually pull information from either of the master servers. They'll pull that so that the reporting portion of that and the monitoring of those components can actually be seen from one central location. It will help other than having to log into each one of those master servers to view how things are being displayed. NetBackup concepts will be the next piece we get into. So one of the concepts that NetBackup has is something called storage types. There are several different storage types in here. The top component, as you can see, is removable media. That's what we consider tapes. It's also referred to as media, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The next portion, we can send our backups to disk. We have local disks that actually happen to be on the media server itself. You could have SAN disk arrays that are connected into or that the media server can see. And we also have network appliances, much like an EMC or our NetBackup Pure Disk environment. Any one of these areas are just fine for sending your backups to disk. New in NetBackup 7.5 is the option to send your data, your backed up data, to the cloud environment. The concept of physical storage versus logical storage. Physical storage is your actual media manager. It's a physical server. There's components for that. Your logical storage will be something that will be called storage units. Which brings me to the next slide. On storage units, this is a logical destination of where your client's data is going to go. So some of the important things to think about is which storage device will be used for this backup job, which media server will get the copy of that data. So in our diagram here, we see we have a media manager storage unit, and that's NBU1 in the picture is our media server. There's a direct connection to the library, Robot 0, for any of the backup jobs to go to that. That is considered a storage unit, is the robot. Media manager is the component of the actual media server itself. On the other side, we've got a disk storage unit. So NBU2, again, is a media server, and the H, the disk, is some local disk that's been attached to that system that we'll be backing up. That too is considered a storage unit. So we would have a storage unit that's disk and a storage unit that was the media manager type, commonly referred to as tape type storage unit. Next, we will get into volume pools. By default, NetBackup has 4 volume pools pre-configured when you do the installation. We have the NetBackup, we have Data Store, we have Catalog Backup, and the None. And additional pools can get created just for your ease of management and for use. One of the most commonly types of pools is called the Scratch pool to create. The scratch pool is used as an extra pool in case one of the other volume pools run out of tapes. In our description here, we show the My HR pool. Again, that would be one that an administrator would have created post-installation. There's also one that says My DB pool. If a backup job is sent to the My DB pool and it does not have tapes, much as what the slide shows, it can borrow tapes from the scratch pool, as long as there's tapes in the scratch pool. We will talk about this in a later lesson. NetBackup catalog components. We have something that's called NetBackup configuration files. So while you have installed the product, when you're going through doing configuration, setting up policies, schedules, storage locations, all of this information gets stored into separate flat files into the directory structure. We also have something that's called the image database. The image database contains metadata about the backup jobs. New to 7.5, the image database has been split into two different databases. Part of it actually resides a little bit on the master server, and the other part of it resides in part of the NetBackup true database. The relational database, the disk at the bottom, basically includes information about your media and device configuration. Here we're going to discuss the NetBackup policies. This is one of the core components of this. When you open up a policy, there's 4 tabs that are run across the top. We have the Attributes tab. The Attributes tab really is going to talk about how the backups are going to occur and where the backups are going to occur. In the Attributes section is where you're going to set up which storage unit, which media server is going to be involved in this. Is it going to go to tape? Is it going to go to disk? Is it going to go to the cloud? As far as schedules are concerned, this is the when. When is this backup going to occur? When are you going to allow this backup job? Is it going to be during the day? Is it going to be during the night? Is it on a particular day, the 15th, the 30th of the month? As far as clients are concerned, which clients are going to be considered a part of that backup job? You can have multiple policies with multiple clients in them, and a client can be part of multiple different policies. Lastly, the 4th tab is the Backup Selections tab. This is what you want the data to get backed up on that particular host. We will dive more into this later when we get into the policy section. Here is the types of backup schedules that NetBackup offers. There actually are 5 types of schedules. As you can see here, the first 3 are what we considered automated or scheduled. The full is backing up everything that's on that client per the backup selections. The differential and cumulative, this is quite different than industry standard, but the way NetBackup has these set up is your differential will grab anything from the full, a differential, or a cumulative. On your cumulative, these will be anything since the last full. On user side, the user backup and user archive, these are not used by default, but they are here. So if you have end users that you would like to be responsible for backing up their own data, we can set up a user backup to be able to have those users back up their own systems. The difference between a user backup and a user archive is the fact that a user archive, once the backup is successful, the user archive will actually go in and delete those files. So let's take a look at the big picture here. We have from the main portion, the center section here on NetBackup. From that, we will notice that you've got the ability to have a policy. From the configuration of that, we have the client's data, you've got the NetBackup logs, the NetBackup reports that can get generated from that. You've got the different types of components as far as the NetBackup databases, the image database, and the EMM database to be able to run all of your backup jobs. And your final destination would end up being your storage unit. On the flip side, you need the big picture for the restore. How are you going to be able to get restores done? Backing up your data is only half as good unless you can actually get a restore out of this. So if you notice at the top, the GUI's changed slightly differently. When it comes to restores, the GUI's a little bit different than what it was for the backup application side. So here you can select for restores. It's going to query the database to find out all the metadata that was done about the backup job you're interested in restoring. We will take the information from the storage unit and place that back out over on the client. You still have the full ability to be able to run reports or view NetBackup logs in case anything went wrong. We'll take a look at NetBackup options and agents. One of the areas to find more information about NetBackup is online. So you can visit www.symantec.com. You can select Enterprise, Products, NetBackup, Agents and Options. And you'll be able to view all the information for all the different supported agents that we have available. Some of the other options that we have on NetBackup, brand new, is NetBackup Accelerator. We will briefly describe this later on in this course. NetBackup Bare Metal Restore, commonly referred to as BMR, is the ability that you can basically restore one of your clients from the base bare bones from that. We have NetBackup Encryption, which allows you to encrypt the data from the client being sent over to the media server. New is 7.5 is NetBackup Cloud. We have NetBackup Deduplication. There's a couple of different ways of doing that. You can set it up through a pure disk appliance, which NetBackup offers, or you can do deduplication right within NetBackup and have that sent via the media server or the client side. We also have NetBackup Media Server Encryption option, known as MISO for short. NetBackup Microsoft Hyper-V, we are able to back up VMware and Hyper-V, both of those. We offer NetBackup NDMP, your Network Data Management Protocol. We can get into NetBackup Open Storage as well as NetBackup Real Time. There's Replication Director, which is brand new to 7.5. That will actually be discussed in our advanced class. We have a NetBackup SAN client and NetBackup SAN media server. There's NetBackup Search option, which is brand new in the Ops Center program. NetBackup Shared Storage option, or SSO. We will get into shared storage option as that is how our lab is actually configured for this course. The NetBackup Snapshot client aspect of this allows you to create multiple different types of snapshots depending on what software you have involved and how your hardware is set up. We also can have a course on NetBackup Vault, not to get confused with Enterprise Vault. NetBackup Vault is the ability to back up your data and have NetBackup actually eject that data and run reports on the tapes that are sent off to, per se, Iron Mountain, some third-party vendor that will take care of your media for you. We have NetBackup Virtual Tape option, as well as NetBackup VMware protection. And lastly, we'll look into the NetBackup Desktop Laptop option, commonly referred to as DLO. These are all the different agents that NetBackup offers. Most of these are bundled together. So when you purchase a license key, most of these will fall under that one license key. As you can see, the ones that have asterisks next to them, you've got NetBackup Microsoft Active Directory, NetBackup Oracle. Those particular two, we actually have a whole separate course that's listed for those options. Lastly is lesson summary. So in this lesson, we actually learned about how to protect your data in your environment. We also looked at the different essential components that's going to come with your NetBackup environment. We talked about how to relate in NetBackup as a whole picture from backups all the way to restores. We took a look at some of the different options that are available for you, as well as some of the agents that you can install in your environment.